fantastic.
So I'm like way slow on.
Let's take some votes here, friends. Who says Ernie is the better student of the two? Who says Ernie is the better student of the two? Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 votes for Ernie. Who says Bert is the better student of the two?
Oh, no.
No. I thought Bert had a vote. Bert always gets shafted in this. Okay, so that was only 9 votes out of like maybe 25, 30 people. So I'm guessing the rest of you say,
Not
They're-
sure.
can't tell, they're both the same. Okay, let's put a fourth, so we have 3 votes so far. 9 votes for Ernie, 0 votes for Bert. Who says they're the same? They're the same? Okay. About the same number say they're the same as say that Ernie's the better student. Who says they are definitely different in some way?
Oh,
But you can change your vote if you want to.
okay.
They're definitely different in some way, but it's kind of tricky to figure out how to express that. That was kind of a strange way of saying it, but we got a couple. Okay, I got a couple saying, okay, maybe they're different in some way. Mon's like maybe buying that they are different. I'm not saying they are different in some way. They're more than likely different in some way.
But we're not given enough data.
Well, we don't have enough data and or some kind of quantification to figure that out. Good. Well, let's first of all, why is Ernie better? Ernie.
He's more consistent.
Okay, I heard a couple neat words. I heard reliable. I heard consistent.
He has a lower range of test
Oh.
scores.
Reliable, consistent. Oh my goodness. Lower range of scores. I like that a lot. Other thoughts about Ernie?
Got a better
This is a fan.
GPA.
Alan, go.
He's got a better GPA overall.
So you're saying these scores based on that, his GPA is better than. I'm just trying to make, because these are supposed to be just test scores, not that's a course scores.
Oh.
So you mean like average of the class? Maybe? If I'm putting words in your mouth, I can back away from that.
Well, what I just did was I just did the weighted average for their.
Good, excellent, excellent. So let's a quick little list here. So we got Bert and Dirksen on the B, and Ernie. Okay, so I noticed a few of you were doing some calculations out there, and the first thing I think a lot of people did was an average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was Bert's average?
81.
81. And what was Ernie's average?
81.
And I like what Alan said about a weighted average. Do we have to do a weighted average in this case?
No.
What kind of data do you have? Good old-fashioned raw data. And when you have raw data, you add them up and divide by 5. So there's no need to do anything weighted. I mean, technically speaking, every average is a weighted average, even raw, but it's a weight of 1. But you wouldn't do that. That's a waste of your time. Okay, a couple of them on, and I believe Nick did medians as well. And we did medians. And the medians ended up being what for these guys?
80.
Good. What was Ernie's?
81.
81. It goes to also be very careful when you're calculating medians. You have to sort the data first. You can't just look at the middle data as it's given to you because it might not be in order. Right now you would call Ernie's median 83, but that's actually the maximum data point for him. So just make sure you're sort of good. How about a mode? Is there a mode? Vivica says no, as there very often is not, because in very small data sets, modes tend to not show up. So that's okay. That's okay. No mode. There's a lower range of score. Put this over here. Anybody do a trimmed mean? I'm guessing the answer is no, because we only talked about it briefly last class. You will talk about it again in your first exam. You'll look at my chicken egg production of my little chicken flock at our house. A trim mean would be found by throwing out the highest and the lowest values and re-averaging the middle. So let's do it real quick. What would Ernie's trimmed mean be in this case? Well, go zoom tight.
Thank you.
We're going to toss out what?
7983.
7983 and re-average 80, 81. I think it's
So would we still divide by 5 or would we
no,
divide by
divide by 3. Good question over here from Jolene, and this is one thing that technology gets in the way from. I'll have you do it in Excel, and there's actually a command in Excel called trim mean that does it for you. But you divide by 3. When you throw out the data points, it's as if the data point doesn't exist anymore. So toss the 83, toss the 79, and re-average 3. I think it's going to be 81 again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. It's just 81 again because you have 80 plus 81 plus 82 over 3.
Bert's is a little bit higher than.
Bert's is a smidge higher?
Point 33333.
Oh, we got a third tagged on. So Bert tosses the 100 and the 61, and we're left with what? We're going to have 68 plus 82 plus 94 divided by 3, and that comes up to only 81.3-ish.
Yeah.
Good.
You're switching your data points though.
Oh, I got everything in Bert.
Oh,
Let's do this. I'll make it easier. Thank you for noticing that. Let's just do this. Thank you for noticing. So the problem with this, if we only rely on these three or some other measure of center, and you can make up another measure of center if you want, what's the problem? What do these guys look like based on these measures?
Look about the same.
They look about the same, don't they? They look about the same using the measures of center. But then when you look at the raw data, about almost the same, if not more of you voted that what? Are they the same? They appear to be different, right? But the trick is we don't know how to quantify it yet. So when you look at this by itself, they look identical. But when you take this and go over to here, I start getting statements like this. Ernie is reliable. Ernie is consistent. Ernie has a lower range of scores. That's talking about how the data points are what? Different, not the same. The idea of a measure of center is you want to use one number that stands for the entire data set. In other words, you lose the data set and replace it with just one number. And that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous because you lose a characteristic of the data set that way. So what I want to talk about briefly today, not briefly, today and Thursday, briefly right now, is a topic header. All last week, and it's not like it's going anywhere, it's not going to go away, we're not done with it. All last week, we were talking about something called measuring center. Measuring center. So taking an entire data set and collapsing it down to one number. One number. That's the, what were some of the words we used for center last week? For average and median and mode. What were some of those words? Normal. Love that, Alex. Thank you. We had normal.
Common.
Common.
Assumption of.
Assumption. Oh, I love that. Right? Like, all these numbers, I assume they're all like this.
Majority.
Majority. Good. Good. Very good. But do you see how that can fail us if we rely solely on that? It's kind of like me going to the woods. And I come to this big river. And there's a dude there fishing, fly fishing. I'm like, dude, can I walk across this? And he says, I think so. It's like 2 foot average depth. I'm like, okay, thanks. And I go walking off. It's like 6 inches deep, 6 inches deep, 6. And then, whoosh, I plunge into an 8 foot hole. Yes, it is 2 feet on average deep. Except for the 8 foot hole that I just drowned in. Was he lying to me? Probably not. It probably is 2 feet on average across. But that 2 feet belies the fact that there might be a bit of, yeah. Right. Did I tell you about Larry Bird?
No.
So Indiana State University, years and years ago, back in the 70s, had a publication that they released from their business department. They said the average salary of a bachelor's in business from Indiana State University is $10,000 more annually than the average salary of any other business degree bachelor's. And this $10,000 more in the 70s is an even bigger deal. It's a big deal now, but it's an even bigger deal back then.
It's a pretty bold statement.
But it's true, because they were including Larry Bird's NBA salary in that. Larry Bird, graduate, business school, Indiana State University, professional basketball player, played for the Boston Celtics. They included his first year salary in that wonderful claim. So, true? Is it true? Yes. Is it misleading?
Yes.
Yes, because it ignores something. It ignores the fact that Larry Bird, his salary was
Huge.
compared to the others. So do you see the difference here? Whereas center talks about how things collapse to one point, we need some other measurement to talk about how the points are
Related.
Weighted.
You said Bert and Ernie are different, yes? Why are Bert and Ernie different? They're not. They're not. They're the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are they different?
They're, the way those test scores are, I mean, Bert is like all over the place.
Boom!
Ernie's like
We
right
need
there.
to talk about this all over the, I love that, all over the place versus not all over the place. Can you think of a word that talks about all over the place versus not all over the place? Good, good. All over the place would be the opposite of consistent, yes? Can you think of one word that wraps up
Scattered.
scattered, sporadic? Scattered and sporadic kind of talk about all over the place, not just consistent. And I might be looking for a word that you might not be connecting it to what I want to do. I want to talk about measuring center. This is not evil. I'm not trying to make it sound like this is evil. This is used. But you can't leave it out there by itself in general. You also have to talk about measuring how things are different, which statisticians call variation. That's the word I want to get you guys used to. Variation. How data points vary. The average, the center, the medians, the modes. That talks about how the data points are similar to each other. But a measure of variation is going to talk about how they're different from each other. How they're different from each other. And that's what I want to start talking about today. And we're not going to stop talking about this ever in this class, because this is one of the things Americans suck at talking about. You guys learned how to calculate an average probably when you were in 4th and 5th grade. I'm guessing none of you have ever measured variation before quantitatively. And that's not your fault. That's the fault of the American education system. We're too busy making you guys do things like FOIL. Crap. You should be talking about variation, whether or not whether I should believe that thing you just came across your Facebook page or not. And this teaches you whether you should believe it or not. FYI, it's probably not. But just so you know, this gives you a quantifiable. So here's what I want you to think about now. How are we going to be able to measure, how can we measure how many times it takes me to pull the screen down? Could you, Nick, start and stop it, or stop and start it again? That'd be awesome.